Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of me going through one of the presentations that I hold at my meetup here in Los Angeles, Century City. Um, I will just put it on screen share and go through the presentation. Here we go. All right. So it's really introduction, a little bit of introduction to Bitcoin in general. Also, then really, I'm going through the properties that I believe makes Bitcoin a better store of value and why it makes a better money than what we have today. And that's really why I see the big potential in Bitcoin in terms of playing a bigger role in the future. The fact that it has certain properties that are very convincing. First of all, big thank you to my two sponsors, Crypto HW Wallet, which is the world's largest hardware cold storage hardware wallet web shop. There's a link in the description below. If you buy more than $100, you get $5 discount through that link. And then also a thank you to WeWork, which is where I have my shared office here in Century City, where they allow me to have the meetups in their very nice location. Actually, from tomorrow, we're going to be able to be in an old cinema that is being renovated with room for 46 people in huge, comfortable seats. It's really nice. Anyways, so news flash. So this is the presentation from last week. A lot of things are going on in Bitcoin pretty much every day. But since, well, last week, going back to 1 week before, a couple of things that had happened. That the price went up by approximately 25% in 8 days. Now we're a little bit below that at $4,100. Has launched a satellite network that covers around 60 to 70% of the world's population, where you, independent of internet access, actually can access the blockchain and verify your transactions by having a couple $100 of satellite receiver equipment. And this is really interesting. By the end of the year, they will cover every single person on Earth. So there will be 4 billion people that don't have access to internet today that will have access to Bitcoin, to use Bitcoin. So that is potentially a very big achievement. It sounds very promising. Another thing that happened in just those 8 days is that Bitcoin surpassed the market value of PayPal. All right. First of all, before we get any further, big disclaimer that none of this is investment advice. You have to do your own research, make your own decisions. I'm not an investment advisor. This is just my thoughts. Bitcoin can go up. It can also go to $0. So it's a risky thing, and you should not invest more than you can afford to lose. To do a small recap of the previous presentation that I made, what is sound money? In my opinion, it's a combination of store value and money. It's not sound money if it cannot store value. If we look at the things that I mentioned previously as store value, it's silver, gold, diamonds, and real estate with a good location. Silver and gold has historically been used as money for thousands of years, but has kind of been outlawed as money. Otherwise, it could potentially be used as money. Where if we look at money, it's uh, paper money, also known as fiat money. There's electronic money, the money that we have in our bank account when we log in to our internet bank. and then there's credit cards. And then, in my opinion, the one thing that really combines the both, which is what you want, is Bitcoin, which is literally the best of both worlds. It has the scarcity that the other money don't have, because there's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist. At the moment, it's 16.5 million, but there is a cap, and you don't have value without scarcity. So for something to be valuable, you need utility and scarcity. When you have those two, you have the value. That's why Bitcoin both is able to store value and is able to be used as money, and why it's a fantastic new innovation, in my opinion. Just short introduction to those that are not too familiar with the Bitcoin yet. Um, in my opinion, it's ingenious solution where you combine the superior store value and the superior money. It has an eternal inflation left from now until the end of time, as long as mankind will live, of 27.19%. That is what total combined inflation that is left in Bitcoin. That will even be spread out over the next 124 years. So 27% is going to be spread over 124 years. After that, the inflation is going to be 0%, which means that Bitcoin will be not inflationary, but deflationary. Every year, one Bitcoin will be able to buy more instead of buy less, because if you have X amount of currency or money in an economy, but the value of what is being produced is going up, and those two will match each other, then one Bitcoin will be worth more and more and more. So it's a great thing for savers. It means that if you're able to save, you can start accumulating your wealth much more than with current money that is being worth, it's printed more and more, so it's becoming worth less and less. Um, in fact, the purchase power of the US dollar, like many other fiat currencies, in the first 100 years of the Federal Reserve's existence, went down by 95%. Um, to compare Ethereum, which is the second largest cryptocurrency on market cap, with Bitcoin, then Ethereum will surpass the 27% inflation that Bitcoin will take 124 years to reach in just 4 years. And after that, it just keeps going, and there's no cap. It can even go higher. Um, and by the way, each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million satoshis, and after that, indefinitely further. Um, Then there's the miners that play an important role in the ecosystem. They facilitate the transactions, and they secure the network. And they secure the network with something like currently 300 times the combined computer power of Google in the entire world. So all the servers that Google has in the entire world, Bitcoin has approximately 300 times of that, if it's not by up to 400 by now. Then there's developers, the developers in Bitcoin Core, which develops the code that Bitcoin runs on. They are really some of the smartest people in the world, or at least very close to. Some of them used to work on developing the internet, and now, since that has been developed out, a lot of them have jumped onto Bitcoin as the most interesting and revolutionizing um, project to work on, really. When it comes to programming, peer review is a very important part of their work, as it's open source. So this way you avoid having malicious code or bugs getting in as much as you can, because these are, first of all, really clever guys writing the code, and then you have several other really intelligent people going through it and making sure that the code is great before it gets implemented. All right, going to the store value rating of 2017. In my opinion, when we look at, again, not investment advice, but if we look at the different kinds of store value that there is, and the different kind of properties we can evaluate them based on, Then if we first look at liquidity, let's look at silver and gold. I would say they have a pretty high liquidity, and therefore I give them green, because you can go to any shop, or uh, you can go to like a gold shop or silver shop, and you can trade your bars, your coins, or whatever. That is fairly liquid. Diamonds is less so, since it is higher value, and one diamond is not the same to another diamond. The same way that gold, 24 karat gold is 24 karat gold, but diamonds are different. They have different cuts, different clarity. So it needs to be evaluated, etc. Location real estate, of course, is less liquid. It'll take at least couple of months maybe, to sell your real estate, or maybe sometimes it can go faster in a good market. In a bad market, it can take more than half a year. So you can't really call location real estate liquid. Bitcoin, I would say, it's fairly liquid, but not super liquid. There is restrictions on it, as it is today, 2017. I heard of people that try to purchase Bitcoin, and then there's all kinds of restrictions, and they want to buy from exchanges. Then there's limits. It takes days before they can get in or get established with their account on local Bitcoins. The price may not be exactly the advertised price. So there's reasons not to call it 100% liquid market as it is today. If we look at another property of a store value in terms of amount of new or exclusive use cases that the store value has for itself, then silver and gold are the same. They don't bring anything new. Diamonds, the same, and real estate don't really bring anything also new that others don't have. But this is where Bitcoin really starts to shine. There's a lot of use cases that Bitcoin has that other stores of values don't have. I recommend looking at Tone Vays website, libertylifetrail.com. If you in the search bar type use cases and search, you'll find his article from 2016 on the top use cases for Bitcoin. I'll just quickly run through those 7. That is donations to causes government does not approve of. It is number 2, purchasing goods government does not approve of. Number 3, gambling. For instance, if you're sitting in a country where gambling is not allowed, well, then with Bitcoin, there's nothing stopping you. Then number 4, purchasing services government does not approve of. 5, hiding assets from a soon-to-be spouse. Number 6, hiding assets from the government. Number 7, transferring value across borders. And I would personally add a number 8, which would be speculation, because there's a lot of people today that see the potential of Bitcoin, see the properties of Bitcoin that I'm going through right now, and believe that it will grow a lot in value based on that. And that's why speculation is occurring. And of course, speculation can be dangerous. It can go both ways, and it can go to zero. Mobility. Okay, silver really is a red. It's not a very mobile store of value when you look at the fact that it is not as intensely concentrated in value like gold and diamonds. You need a truck to move around big amounts of value. Gold is more valuable, so that can get a yellow. Diamonds, of course, is very valuable um, uh, because it is so expensive, so we can give that a green. However, if you're going across borders, so for that one use case that was mentioned before on Tone Vays website, um, it is not as mobile as Bitcoin, for instance. Then there's location real estate. You can, of course, let's say you have a great located villa in Los Angeles. You can't just move it to New York. However, you can move the deed with you and sell it in New York. So to some extent, the asset itself is kind of mobile, but not really fully green, I would say. Bitcoin, you can is super mobile. You can move around $1 billion in your hardware wallet, and it doesn't weigh anything. In fact, the Bitcoin, you're not moving the Bitcoin around. The Bitcoin exists on the blockchain, which is kept going by the miners. You're just carrying the keys with you, so that key can unlock a very big deposit or a tiny deposit. Doesn't make the size of the key any different. Okay, so how much inflation is left? Another property of a store value. Um, and silver and gold and diamonds are still being mined. So there's an unknown amount of inflation. It may not be tremendous, but it's unknown, and I believe it's around 1 to 2% that at least gold is being mined further every year compared to the existing um, amount of gold that has been mined. Location real estate. Also, you can say can be inflated, because if the prices of a good location somewhere goes up, then sooner or later, instead of there being villas, you can build apartments in the height, and this way the square footage, square meters, are inflated of the good location. Bitcoin, definitely give it a green in terms of how much inflation is left, because it is only 27% that is left over the next more than 100 years, and after that it's 0% inflation. So it's doing phenomenal on those terms. If we look at the value growth potential left in these different stores of value, then the silver and gold and diamonds, we can give it yellow. I mean, it could go up. Bitcoin could replace them because it has better properties in many ways. Of course, you don't use Bitcoin as a jewelry, um, but we also don't know when we reach another planet or meteor or something where it turns out that there's a lot of gold or silver and diamond, and that can be mined, and all of a sudden the volume on Earth of that particular material increases by 50% or even more. So um, I'm giving those three a yellow. Value growth potential left in good location real estate, I give a green, as real estate in a great location, where the population growth is positive, tends to be a positive over time, and definitely also will give Bitcoin a green in terms of store value rating, as um, there there's so many positive things to say about Bitcoin in terms of its store value capabilities. The same with the Bitcoin's money properties compared to the other money, which I'll go through after this. So, I mean, you could argue that Bitcoin is a better store of value than gold, according to the table I've made here. I would definitely argue that. Yet Bitcoin is only worth less than 1% of gold. So you could easily argue that Bitcoin could go up 100 times to be worth the market cap of gold. So again, there's no guarantee for that. It can also go to $0, but um, the potential of value growth left definitely is very high, potentially. Now, if we were to look, say, 5, 10 years out, I'll just put it 10 years just to be conservative in terms of how long time it takes for new technology to be fully implemented in Bitcoin, and usage to be spread out. Uh, um, then let's look at an estimation for 2027, where in terms of liquidity, the only place where Bitcoin as a store value property was not green. I take it from yellow to green because I believe that the usage or the amount of people holding Bitcoin is growing up or going up pretty much exponentially. So liquidity in terms of people being able to buy and sell Bitcoin and use Bitcoin is going to go up dramatically. So the way I see it, we're not more than 5 to 10 years away from Bitcoin being a superior store of value in every single property that I can think of. Feel free to let me know in the comments which properties I might have left out. But this is why I'm so excited about Bitcoin, because if it's a better store of value, if it has better properties, why would it not be worth more than gold? So that's a value growth of 100 times right there, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, not investment advice. All right, if we look at Bitcoin as a rating of money in this year 2017, where we look at paper money, electronic money, credit cards, and Bitcoin on the different properties you can look at for money. Then the first we'll look at is fungible, whether the money is fungible, whether, so that means whether one unit is as good as another unit. If $1 bill is as good as another dollar bill, a euro bill is as good as another euro bill, etc. And when it comes to paper money, that is pretty superior. It's not, although you can say, okay, it's maybe not 100% because they do have serial numbers, so it may not be 100% fungible, but it's in practice it's quite close. The same goes with electronic money in your internet bank, and pretty much the same with credit cards. This is where Bitcoin today has a challenge, where companies can do chain analysis and see where the Bitcoins that you hold, where they came from, who had them before, and this way a lot of information can be extracted. So Bitcoin is not 100% fungible today. And then if we look at liquidity, paper money, electronic money, and credit cards are really as liquid as they can get, where again Bitcoin here is not fully liquid today, so I can only give Bitcoin a yellow. Then when it comes to global mobility, then paper money, I would say is only a red. There's only so much you can bring around the world, and if you want to take let's say send $3 million to China from US to pay a vendor, then in cash, it doesn't make much sense. You need some serious security, who you have to be sure are not going to just take the money and go. But you need several security guards taking care of that on the plane or wherever they go. Electronic money is more mobile, however, is still there's still the 5 to 10 working days, bank days for transfer to happen. It needs to be exchanged to another currency, and it can be frozen. There can be questions on it. Credit cards has another challenge. You may buy something of a website at the other side of the world instantly with a credit card, but they don't get the money until 30, 45, 60 days later, when it's cleared from the credit card company. So it's not really fully flexible global. This is where Bitcoin, I mean, is basically born to and developed to be global, mobile, because it already exists globally. You're just moving the ownership around. If we look at the fees, then if you spend fiat money, paper money in a shop, there's no fees involved in that. So definitely a green for paper money. If you look at electronic money, well, then there's fees involved with that. I recently received $2,000 as a payment for my Google AdWords service that I do for my clients, and my bank charged $15 for that. I mean, $15 just for me receiving a payment. It's just an electronic thing for them. It doesn't take any work. Um, and same if you're sending electronic money from one country to another country, there's the 3% cut when you go from one currency to another, plus I don't know, some standard fee of $50 or something if it's international. Credit cards has the 3% fees, where uh, a vendor or merchant receiving a payment in credit card with a credit card has to pay a 3% fee, and they only get the money again delayed 1 to 2 months later. With Bitcoin, the fees there, yes, there is fees at the moment, but they're quite small, and they pretty much only exist because of spam in the network. And Segwit is getting active a few days from now, which is allowing for Lightning, which is a payment channel on top of the Bitcoin protocol, which will take the fees to near zero for any size of Bitcoin transaction. Then there is something that I would like to call speed to China. If you need to, from anywhere in the world, pay that production company, that factory in China, then how fast can you pay them with these different types of money? Well, with paper money, it's going to take days for your team of security guards to arrive to China with the money, and they need to be exchanged first. Then there's electronic money being sent with a bank. Again, 5 to 10 working days, slow, old school, going out of business. Then there's credit cards. I mean, you can pay now, but they will still only get the payment 1 to 2 months later, so not really fast. With Bitcoin, it is as fast as it can get, where they will get paid same day. 10 to 20 minutes if you send it with a high priority fee, and with Lightning Network, which we'll have soon, it'll be basically instant payments. Then if we look at censorship, someone's or government's ability to censor your choice of what you want to spend your money on, of course, can be good and bad, but let's in this way or here look at it as in you prefer to decide what you spend your money on. Paper money, some level of censorship can be enforced, where, and especially electronic money and credit cards can be 100% censored. For instance, when WikiLeaks were blocked from US, that they enforced that now no one in the world using the SWIFT network, which is the international settlement system for transferring money, were allowed to send any money to WikiLeaks in UK. And the solution today is that they accept donations in Bitcoin. So that's one of the main strengths of Bitcoin, that there's no censorship on it. Nobody can censor it. If we go to, we go back to the current picture I just looked at. If we go again 5-10 years out, see what's the situation with Bitcoin then. I would say fungible and liquidity, the two that were yellow before, would be green, because we're going to have the privacy that's going to make fungibility green. We're going to have the liquidity because so many people are going to use it to make it green, that Bitcoin is going to be the only money that is green all the way down on all the properties. This way, it's going to be a superior money, and I don't see why people will not choose to use Bitcoin instead of any other money. In fact, here we could add another property, which would be inflationary versus deflationary, where Bitcoin is the only one that is deflationary. So give that green to Bitcoin and red to the three others. I'll have to add that later to the presentation. So my conclusion, really, nothing is written in stone, but in my point of view, by far, Bitcoin is a superior store of value for the reasons that I went through. It's a superior money. And again, it's not investment advice, and it's full of risk to invest in cryptocurrencies. But if you look at the potential value growth of Bitcoin to reach gold, it has to go up more than 100 times, which could easily happen. Then if you look at what if it were to start being the number one money or currency in the world, it would have to go up another at least 10, 15 times. So in that sense, the potential we're looking at could be potentially around 1,000 times worth more than it is today. For one Bitcoin today is worth $4,100 one Bitcoin. So I don't see why it couldn't be worth 4 or 5 million US dollars for one Bitcoin. With that, let me just go back to stop sharing screen. All right, back with that. I also just wanna actually, there is one more thing that I want to show you guys on screen. Apologies for that not being there before. I just want to mention the meetup that I'm having here in Century City in Los Angeles. If you search, if you go to meetup.com, you search for Los Angeles Century City Bitcoin, you'll be able to see that tomorrow, Wednesday, August the 23rd, 2017, we have a meetup where I will be presenting about why merchant adoption of Bitcoin doesn't matter and when it will come. So I will have a presentation, and we'll go back to not sharing screen. Right, so I'll have a presentation ready tomorrow night or evening for why Bitcoin, the merchant adoption of Bitcoin right now, why it doesn't matter, and when it will come. After I have done the presentation at the meetup, again I will stream it live here on YouTube, and it will be available after the live stream. Lying there just like this video. All right, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for bearing with me on the rookie mistakes that there will be here in the beginning when you start something new, which live streaming on YouTube is for me. And I look forward to making many more of these. And yeah, bye bye.